Boruto has lost a lot over the course of this manga, whether that be his family, his friends, his village, and even his body parts. It gets to the point where it seems as if Momoshiki's prophecy about Boruto losing everything is slowly playing out over time, and based on what happened in chapter 15, it appears that Boruto's own life will be next on that list. This of course stems from Boruto revealing that he hasn't used his karma seal in over 2 years. That's because during the battle versus Code, something mysterious happened when he activated karma. He then goes on to say that this is when he sensed it, something similar to the feeling he got whenever Momoshiki possessed him. A feeling where he stopped being himself and started dying while still conscious and aware. Now this development is beyond scary, because it implies that Boruto is indeed losing himself to Momoshiki whenever he uses the karma seal, which means that things have in fact gotten worse. Now this might seem like an oversimplification, because I don't believe that Boruto is becoming Momoshiki, or that Momoshiki is gaining control of his body. I believe that we're witnessing the birth of a new entity. You see, this goes back to what happened in chapter 78 when Momoshiki possessed Boruto atop the Akage monument. This signified that the situation between Boruto and his karma seal had gotten worse, because Momoshiki was able to take control of his body without entering his Borushiki state, which was initially the form that gave Momoshiki that kind of access. So even at this point in the story, the process of Boruto losing himself had already begun. Momoshiki had full reign to take control of his body at any point in time. Now this didn't happen in a vacuum. It wasn't the natural course of how the karma seal should have progressed. For this to make sense, let's briefly go back to chapter 67 when Momoshiki revived Boruto and he became 100% Otsutsuki. This happened after Momoshiki repaired his damaged organs using his own essence. At that point, Boruto was already 82% Momoshiki at a genetic level. So Momoshiki extracting the remaining 18% of his data and rewriting it to match Boruto's completed his transition into a full Otsutsuki-fied being. That's because even though the data itself was changed to match Boruto's genetic structure, it still remained Otsutsuki at its core. The visual manifestation of this change resulted in a permanent black marking spreading across his chest, signifying the transformed portion of his body. So it's no wonder Boruto seems stronger than he was before. Not only is he now 100% Otsutsuki at a genetic level, he's also now one with the karma seal as well. In fact, Boruto himself confirms that he can better tap into Momoshiki's power after this event occurred. My point is that Boruto's base is now enhanced by the 18% of karmic data that now inhabits the central portion of his chest area. Now this also had its downsides, which is that Boruto was slowly becoming one with Momoshiki. This was confirmed back in chapter 75 when Momoshiki's brainwaves started to overlap with Boruto's. He then went on to explain that it's a new effect that apparently arose from having supplemented some of Boruto's damaged flesh with his data. Now this wasn't something Momoshiki was expecting to happen, because he then went on to say that he didn't want this to happen. Their thoughts are leaking to each other against their will. This of course is very significant because later on in chapter 15, Boruto goes on to say that he hasn't heard from Momoshiki in over 3 years. This implies that Momoshiki somehow died, which is highly unlikely, or it could be the case that he's doing this intentionally. The real question is why? Well, the answer to that is actually quite clear. So the reason why Momoshiki hasn't spoken to Boruto in over 3 years is because the process taking place with karma doesn't just negatively affect Boruto. This once again goes back to what I said before. The side effect of Momoshiki healing Boruto using his data is them pretty much becoming one entity. That is why Boruto could hear Momoshiki's thoughts and vice versa. That is why Boruto could tap into Momoshiki's power to use future sight. And that is also why Momoshiki could take control of Boruto's body in chapter 78. Now this might seem overly positive for Momoshiki, so why wouldn't he want this to happen? But that's because there's a big difference between taking control of someone and becoming one with them. You see, the end result of this entire process won't result in Momoshiki's victory. Instead, this will likely end in his demise. That's because just like Boruto, who continues to lose himself, the same will happen to Momoshiki. In the end, both of them will die, but they'll still remain conscious. The difference is that the personality of Boruto and Momoshiki will no longer exist. Someone else will emerge. For this to make sense, think Gogeta or Vegito from the Dragon Ball universe. These characters are created from the merger of Goku and Vegeta, both with distinctive personalities. So while Vegito is more like Vegeta and Gogeta is more like Goku, there's still elements of the other character in them, and they don't see themselves as either one. So keeping that in mind, Momoshiki wouldn't want something like this to happen, where the best case scenario is that his urges are tempered by that of Boruto's, or the worst case scenario is that he gets snuffed out completely. So his way of stopping this from happening was to cut all forms of communication with him, which likely slows down the process to some degree. Now of course there is more to it, because Momoshiki outright stated that their thoughts are being crossed against their will, which means that it isn't as simple as him deciding not to let that happen. So the most likely case is that Momoshiki has suppressed himself deep within Boruto's psyche, which is what he wanted to happen to Boruto as stated in chapter 72. This means that Momoshiki hasn't just decided not to speak with Boruto, he isn't even conscious at this point in time, because if he was, Boruto would be able to hear his thoughts. So when Boruto lost control of his karma seal in chapter 8 of Two Blue Vortex, it wasn't that Momoshiki was taking control of his body, it's more so that Boruto was losing himself and becoming one with Momoshiki. Now this isn't even the craziest part, because what if I told you that Boruto needs to merge with Momoshiki to survive, and it has something to do with the Matrix? Kishimoto recently revealed that one of his main inspirations for Boruto was the Matrix trilogy. This can be seen in the fact that Boruto is described as the hero of the story, the star of hope. He's pretty much the one as was Neo in the Matrix. This is also shown in the character poses such as Sumire imitating Persephone, Amado being the architect, Sarada's hairstyle matching Trinity's while clearly being Boruto's love interest. Even have Boruto imitating the scene where Neo flies at top speed to save Trinity when he saves Sarada and Himawari. You have many other similarities as well, such as Kashin Koji having the Oracle's power to see the future, and even Omnipotence being the programming language that created the world, similar to the Matrix. I'll do a separate video that goes in depth on all of these similarities because that's just the tip of the iceberg. What I want to focus on in this one is why the path Neo took to defeat Agent Smith will be the same path Boruto takes to defeat Momoshiki. You see, when he first met Agent Smith, he had a misanthropic philosophy. He hated humanity and also had a vision that machines were superior to humans and saw himself as part of that superior race.
Because as soon as we started thinking for you, it really became our civilization, which is, of course, what this is all about. Evolution, Morpheus. Evolution. Like the dinosaur. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
Now something happened after he was destroyed by Neo in the first movie. By doing this, Neo created a negative part of himself. Everything wrong with humanity is reflected in Smith. Thus he goes from being a misanthrope to a dangerous nihilistic force that sees no purpose in existence itself. He doesn't see his superiority over the machines. He went from hating humans to hating all of existence itself. He pretty much became absolute evil. Now of course you can see the clear parallels to Momoshiki as well. He believed that humans were inferior creatures and touted the Otsutsuki's as gods above man. That's why Boruto, who defeated a god, can't remain an ordinary human. He must also become a god by way of becoming Momoshiki himself through the process of karma. Now similar to how Neo infected Agent Smith with his humanity, or more so the anomaly, the same thing happened to Momoshiki. You see, Agent Smith was pretty much a program that was given a specific task within the Matrix. He didn't have a choice or didn't understand the concept of it. This changed when Neo destroyed him by entering his body at the end of the first movie, which then infected him with the anomaly. Now Neo is the anomaly, the ultimate consequence of granting humans the concept of choice to accept or reject the Matrix. Now the architect of the Matrix knows that if he doesn't allow choice, there will be no escapes. But if that happens, the Matrix will crash very quickly. So he must allow choice. But then eventually a human will emerge who can transcend the Matrix and gain the ability to manipulate it. This is the anomaly. The path of the one, that being Neo, was created to control this phenomenon. Now this goes back to Momoshiki as well. He doesn't understand human emotions. I mean, Amado described the Otsutsuki's as alien parasites. They only possess one goal, which is to devour the life of a planet. That's the only reason why they come and then leave for another planet. So the Otsutsuki, similar to Agent Smith, seem to only have one shared goal, which is why every Otsutsuki we've seen so far share the same mission. It's embedded in their programming. Consume the life of a planet using the Ten-Tails, consume its chakra fruit, and then evolve into an Otsutsuki god. Now the difference with Momoshiki and Agent Smith is that he doesn't struggle with the concept of choice per se, because we have seen the Otsutsuki's like Kaguya choose not to devour Earth, likely because she found a reason not to. So Momoshiki doesn't need to understand the concept of choice, he needs to understand the why. You see, this was a major focus in the final moments of the Matrix trilogy as well. Why does one make certain decisions? Why does one keep fighting? You see, the Eyes of the Oracle is pretty much the most powerful weapon in the Matrix. Using this ability, one can predict future events to a certain extent. But even this powerful weapon has its drawbacks, which is that one cannot see beyond choices they do not understand. A prime example of this is that Neo developed the same power as the Oracle but couldn't see past Trinity's death because he didn't understand why he should choose between saving Trinity or humanity. This weakness of the Eyes of Oracle is what she used to defeat Agent Smith.
I told you before, no one can see beyond a choice they don't understand. And I mean no one.
What choice?
It doesn't matter.
So the article was talking about how she decided to allow herself to be assimilated by Smith, but even she cannot see past her decision because she couldn't understand it. This is also why Smith was afraid in the final battle versus Neo. Smith assimilated the Oracle, which meant that he gained the ability to see into the future. So he saw the future where Neo was on the ground defeated. He saw the end.
Wait. I've seen this. This is the end.
So Agent Smith foresaw the future where he beat Neo, but he didn't see what would happen next because he couldn't understand why Neo would make the choice to continue fighting, much less why he would allow himself to be assimilated. So Smith can't see past Neo's choices because he doesn't understand the why. So Smith asks Neo, why?
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you do it?
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you persist?
Now Neo's answer to this was because he chooses to, and Agent Smith couldn't comprehend these illogical answers, so he got angry. This then led to Agent Smith losing to Neo unknowingly because he couldn't see beyond Neo being on the ground before him because he couldn't understand why he would keep fighting. Now this then takes us back to Boruto and Momoshiki's prophecy about him losing everything.
Heed this warning. Beware, for those blue eyes shall eventually take everything from you.
Momoshiki saw this future for Boruto and was certain that it was going to happen. He was going to win. This played out in chapter 79 when Ada used the programming language of the gods known as Omnipotence to switch the lives of Boruto and Kawaki. So Boruto became the enemy of the village, lost his parents to Kawaki, and had nowhere to turn, or so Momoshiki thought. You see, while Boruto did lose a lot due to Omnipotence, he didn't really lose everything. Sarada and Sumire weren't affected by the jutsu, which then led to Sarada convincing Sasuke to help Boruto. Momoshiki didn't see this when he glimpsed into the future, and that's because he doesn't understand the why. As he silently said in chapter 80, it wasn't supposed to go like this. Why would Boruto not despair and turn his body over to him when he has nothing left? Why would he continue fighting? Why would Sasuke help Boruto for his daughter's sake, even though he perceives Boruto to be an enemy?
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you do it?
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you persist?
So Momoshiki, just like Agent Smith, can't understand why these humans continue to persevere because he doesn't understand certain human emotions. That is why he thought Boruto lost everything in the future he saw. He knew that Omnipotence flipped the lives of Boruto and Kawaki, which to him meant that Boruto would lose everything since he's now the outsider who killed the 7th Hokage. So he didn't actually see Boruto lose everything, but by virtue of Omnipotence being casted, he thought it was a certainty. It should have been. And since he couldn't fathom why someone would persevere under those circumstances, he couldn't see past the point where Boruto did. So the future itself didn't change, Momoshiki just couldn't see it in its entirety. Now how does this explain the situation with karma? Well, this can only go one of three ways. Either Momoshiki and Boruto come together by choice, Boruto finds a way to remove him from the equation, or they both get consumed and a new entity emerges. The first option goes back to Agent Smith gaining the ability to defy his programming after Neo destroyed him by entering his body. Neo gave him that which he didn't possess, which allowed him to evolve. The same thing could possibly happen to Momoshiki as well. In becoming one with Boruto both in mind and body, Momoshiki has over time developed the ability to understand the emotions he couldn't. So he now understands why Boruto fights for his loved ones. He understands why Boruto didn't despair. He now understands the why, or at least he will. So Momoshiki and Boruto will likely come together when the time comes, which means that Boruto also must learn to accept Momoshiki and the fact that he's now an Otsutsuki. He must learn to embrace the karma instead of being afraid of it, the same way Neo embraced being the one. This will likely result in a merger still taking place, but instead of losing himself, he just becomes more than what he was before, finally being able to use his karma and likely awakening the Jogan. Now this could go the other route as well. Maybe the point isn't to become one with Momoshiki, but instead to get rid of him. So it could end up being the case that by Boruto accepting the process, he comes out the victor of the merger, while Momoshiki, who failed to understand the why, rejects it, thus being eradicated. So in a sense, Boruto gains full control of Momoshiki's essence, while Momoshiki fades away. Now the third option is that none of them come to the correct conclusion, which results in both of them being erased. All three options are equally as plausible, though I think the first one has a bit more going on. So yeah, that's how Boruto solves the issue with the Karma Seal and Momoshiki. Now I could be wrong, but I guess we'll see soon enough. That's it guys, that's it for the video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you guys want to join the Discord, the link will be down in the comments pinned somewhere. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below, and drop a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.